Man, I miss Hev. I miss Hev. I knew Heavy D well. We boxed at the same gym for many years, and I was talking about Hev in the gym the other day. As a matter of fact, we miss Heavy D, and he sounds as good now as he ever did. Love to have. I'm Tavis Smiley. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number, 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. Funny thing about Hev, as big as that brother was, and he'd lost some weight by the time he passed away, but as big as Hev was, he drove a Mini Cooper, which was always funny seeing Hev get in and out of his Mini Cooper. Miss that brother. I'm glad to have you tuned in to KBLA Talk 1580 in this hour, our final hour today. And how delighted am I to welcome to this program actress, author, singer, philanthropist, and longtime friend Holly Robinson Peete for a conversation just ahead of this year's HollyRod Foundation's DesignCare Gala as the foundation celebrates its 25th anniversary. I about fell out of my chair when I saw the other day that they're at year 25 now. The gala co-hosted by Holly Robinson Peete and her husband Rodney Peete, the founders of HollyRod. And the star-studded event will honor several folk for their work in the Parkinson's and autism communities, including Naomi Campbell, Nicole Parker, and Boris Kodjoe. I am pleased to welcome Holly Robinson Peete to the airways of KBLA Talk 1580. Holly, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to talk to you. It's been way too long.
It has.
And can I tell you, you made me so happy playing that Heavy D because we were also very, very good friends, and we acted together, and I just miss him so much. I missed him so much. Thank you for doing that.
No, that was Miles, my board up. I thank Miles for putting that track, we all happy.
You, Miles.
Yeah. Miles with a shout out from Holly Robinson Peete. He'll hold on to that one. Before I get into your work and your witness and 25 years, which I celebrate, before I do all of that, for those who don't know this backstory, and it's so important to me whenever I think of you and your precious family, to remind people, Miles, for example, is a young guy in his 20s, and so he doesn't know this Holly Robinson Peete backstory, and there are others who may not know it. But I'm going to ask you, if you will, to indulge me and start this conversation by telling the audience who your dad was, iconic in his own right, about your mom, iconic in her own right, and your husband, iconic in his own right. Tell me about your mom, your dad. Well, I know about it, but tell the audience about your mom, your dad, and your husband for those who don't know, and then we'll jump into your work.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am so proud of the legacy of my family, certainly my mom and my dad. My dad was the OG, short for Original Gordon, on Sesame Street.
Yes.
So this was back in 69 through the early 70s. So, the 20-year-olds would not remember that he would not be their Gordon, but he was the original Gordon. And this was very important because what a lot of people don't realize about Sesame Street is that it was started for inner city children. It was the first time we'd ever seen diversity in children's programming ever. And it was very groundbreaking. And my dad was really the only black man in the room. It was a lot of, they meant well, but there weren't a lot of black people around the creation of Sesame Street, and my father was that voice in the room. But then there was another Gordon, and it didn't work out with him, so they said, Matthew Robinson, would you play Gordon? He was like, well, I don't really want to be in front of the camera, but I'll do it. And he ended up doing it, and doing it so well, and was the very first man on the very first episode in 1969 to say, hi, I'm Gordon, and welcome to Sesame Street. And this here is Big Bird, and over here is Mr. Hooper. And he introduced the world to these iconic Muppets and characters. So just a really amazing man, brilliant, Penn State graduate, just a really amazing guy, a Q till forever. He loved being in that fraternity. He was a writer, producer in Philadelphia, and then when Sesame Street hit, he became on camera, but he didn't love being on camera. So when that run ended, he ended up going on and writing for Sanford and Son, the Jeffersons, the Waltons, even Eight is Enough. So he was an amazing screenwriter. And then when he was only in his 40s, he got young onset Parkinson's disease. Yep. And that was crazy, Tavis, because I was only 19. I was at college, and I had to be his caregiver, but I didn't know anything about Parkinson's. This was before Muhammad Ali talked about it, so we didn't really know anything about that back then. And so, yeah, he because of him, we started HollyRod Foundation to help other families impacted by Parkinson.
Yeah.
My mom came out to California in the 70s, fleeing a divorce from my dad, to say, I'm going to just try to make a change. I have the audacity to dream of a bigger life. And she came out, and we stayed in a house in Malibu. We didn't have no money. Owned by Cleavon Little, the late great actor from the movie Blazing Saddles. If you don't know,
oh yeah,
could never make that movie today, Tavis.
No, you couldn't. You could
but
not.
At its time, It was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, and Cleavon was so good in it. And he let us stay in this house for free, and it gave my mom some footing. She got a job on an agent's desk. She got her first management client with LeVar Burton at the time when Roots was just getting ready to air, and she took his career, and so she became a manager. I didn't end up managing me till way later, but really was a personal manager in show business for a long period of time, and just really, really blazed a trail. And then my husband, Rodney Peete, played football for 16 years, played NFL football for 16 years, and before that was at USC, and was just a really an amazing journeyman, but also he started a lot too. It's funny, Rodney has just been part of this, he's doing a documentary now about black quarterbacks with Michael Vick. And the history of black quarterbacks. And when I tell you, I was so happy to see him voice some of this, because a lot of it, when Rodney Peete was playing, it was before a lot of these young cats now, black quarterbacks who are, they're designing offenses around them and paying them what they deserve. So Rodney was quite a bit of a pioneer, back in the day. And I love that he's talking about this openly now without fear of retribution or any kind of issues with his job, where he can really be open about the type of racism, and that's what it was, that he faced when he was drafted. When Rodney was drafted in 1989, but 10 other quarterbacks, all white, went before him. And 3 years later, they were all gone, and Rodney was still there. And it's because he should have been drafted in the first round. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country at the time. And so he went on to play for 16 years and had a great career. And now he's on the radio like you, Tavis, doing some sports radio and also doing some production of documentaries. So that's my dad, my mom, and my hubby.
Well, I want to start there because, again, it's quite a legacy. And every time I think of Holly or see Holly and Rodney for that matter, I think about that legacy. Her mother, Dolores Robinson, just an iconic agent in this town. Her father, iconic in terms of Sesame Street and all the writing that he did. Her husband, black quarterback back in the day at USC, 16 years in the pros. And then, of course, Holly with her brilliance as an actress and singer and philanthropist. It's quite a family, and it's quite a story, and I celebrate that. We don't oftentimes take the time to delve into the richness of our stories as black people, and I just love the opportunity to put that out there for you to just digest and to revel in throughout your day about what we are capable of as black people. When we come forward, speaking of what we're capable of, we'll talk about the 25th anniversary of DesignCare Gala, sponsored by this year sponsored by the HollyRod Foundation, and our guest, Holly Robinson Peete. We'll get into that in a moment when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Watering Your Lawn During the Hottest Time of the Day and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save. Right now, get up to 40% off select bathroom faucets and vanities. Plus, buy Southwire Romex Simple 12-gauge indoor wire at our everyday low price of $109. Head to your local Lowe's or visit us at Lowes.com for more deals you can't beat. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Valid 7/6 through 7/12 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. U.S. only.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Kohl's. I just went shopping and saved big on sunny day essentials like tees, tank tops, shorts, capris, swimwear, and beach towels. Because for every one I bought, I was able to get a second for only $1. Plus, I earned Kohl's Cash. So head to Kohl's and find the top styles for the lowest prices. You'll thank me later. Select styles. Offers in July 13th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Hosting a barbecue is a breeze, but managing my frequent heartburn, that was a lot more work. I would chew up to 10 antacids in one day. Now I take just one Prilosec OTC, and my heartburn is blocked for a full 24 hours. Just one Prilosec OTC a day gives me one-and-done heartburn relief, so I can go back for seconds on my world-famous burgers.
Prilosec OTC. One pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
You're ready to level up to your next home or your first home. But maybe you still have some questions. Come check out Rocket. We're ready to help. Start with a Rocket Mortgage home buying plan and get Rocket rewards along the way for cash toward closing. You got this, and Rocket's got you. Only with Rocket. Visit rocketbuyingplan.com to get started today.
Call 866-357-5727 for conditions and restrictions. Equal housing lender license in all 50 states. NMLS Consumer Access.org, number 3030.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Our guest in this hour is Holly Robinson Peete in this half hour, and we are celebrating the impending 25th anniversary of the DesignCare Gala. Holly, I again, you heard me say earlier, I was just gobsmacked when I realized that you guys been doing this 25 years now.
Listen, I've been going through, I'm so hands-on with this event, Tavis, and I just, my Virgo self is over here just looking through everything. I'm, got to look over everything. I can't help it. And I'm looking over 25 years of service to the autism and Parkinson's communities. And what I'm seeing is I forgot we did half the stuff that we did. That's how long it's been. But, the time just went really fast. I mean, look, all I got to do is look at my kids. And my twins are 25.
Wow.
And I'm just like, where did that go? When did that happen? So, but yes, 25 years, and we've really been very blessed to have some awesome support in the community, some really great sponsors, and just lovely people in the community that have kept us going during the real slim times. Obviously during the COVID times, It was tough because we couldn't have the gala, and it really doesn't count for most of our fundraising. But yep, it's been 25 years, and I can't believe it.
Yeah. What do you make? These are broad questions, but I do that unapologetically to give you something to paint with. What do you make of what you have seen regarding Parkinson's and autism? And as I said earlier, you all have not just raised awareness about these two issues, but you have helped fund the research in these arenas. You've been a spokesperson for these things. Just give me your top line of what you've seen over 25 years when it comes to Parkinson's and autism.
Well, with Parkinson's, which is what my dad was diagnosed with, and I'm not sure you knew, Tavis, that my brother Matt also has Parkinson's.
I heard that. I did hear that.
Yeah. So Matt was diagnosed with young onset as well, in his late 50s. And what I know, the biggest, I think, takeaway over the last 25 years, or even before that, when my dad first got the diagnosis in the 80s, was just the value of exercise. It sounds very small, like it's not a big deal, but when people get diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and they immediately start a very rigorous exercise program, it staves off so many symptoms and really can sort of turn back the hands of time a little bit. So that's the number one takeaway. So now that my brother, he does boxing and he does all kinds of hiking, and it's really helped him with his Parkinson's, whereas my dad, by the time we found out about the value of exercise, he was just like, I can't even button my shirt, and you guys want me to get on the treadmill. So that was really, it's sort of like it's not your father's Parkinson's anymore. So we've learned a lot and through the eyes of my brother, which is pretty profound. So that's probably one of the biggest things. And there are some really great stem cell advances medically. We're just seeing a lot more now. Insurances are covering it. Back when we first started supporting families impacted by Parkinson's, it was not even considered it was considered a pre-existing condition, right? Mm-hmm. So that was really difficult. So we would help people with that issue. And then with autism, oh, man, I mean, where do I start? When RJ was diagnosed with autism in 2000, the prevalence was 1 in 150, mm-hmm. and now it's 1 in 36. Mm. So the prevalence has jumped. I think it's a combination. I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom, but of a combination of we're diagnosing it better, but also there just is more autism now. And so I don't know why that is. But I do know that in our community, the African-American community, we get diagnosed 2 to 5 years later than other communities. Why? Because we have a stigma in our community a lot about mental health or any kind of thing involving the brain. We tend to overlook that. And so we don't have access sometimes to diagnosis, which can be very expensive, and there's long wait lists. And then it's just, it's just a very difficult thing to get diagnosed with because it involves so many therapies, and so many of them are costly, and so many of them are not covered under the individual educational program, the IEPs mm-hmm. at school. And so what I've noticed is the prevalence has jumped, but there's a lot more awareness. And I'd like to think that the Peete family had something to do with that because when we got the diagnosis, we saw no one talking about it, and we were really glad to be able to get out and sort of be a platform for some of these families. Let
me ask you, you said a few things I want to interrogate here. Before I interrogate the autism comment you made a moment ago, let me just say that we were talking earlier about boxing. I mentioned Heavy D, who was a friend of mine, a friend of yours, and how he and I boxed together at the same gym. You mentioned your brother who has early Parkinson's, and he's in the gym boxing as well. I box, and again, where Heavy and I hung out. It's a gym called Pound for Pound. Let me shout them out. It's called Pound for Pound, right on La Cienega near Olympic. If you're in the LA area, you're looking for a boxing gym. The proprietor of that shop is called Terry. His name is Terry Claiborne, an amazing trainer. It's an amazing gym. This is the guy that trains Denzel for all his movies, and he did The Hurricane. As a matter of fact, when you see The Hurricane, the opening scene is my trainer Terry and Denzel boxing in that movie. So Terry Claiborne is an amazing, amazing boxing trainer with this gym, Pound for Pound, again on La Cienega, right near Olympic. I raised that because I don't know what I have to ask Terry what even motivated this, Holly, but Terry has been taking on lately a number of Parkinson's clients.
Yes.
And when I walk in the gym, what's today? Monday. I'll be there Wednesday. When I walk in the gym, there's a class. And it is amazing to me. There's an 88-year-old white woman in there, and there's another guy I see all the time. But there are these persons who have Parkinson's, but they're running around the gym, they're boxing, and it's amazing to me to watch them stand still. While they're standing still, you can see the shakes they have, right? Yeah. But when they put these boxing gloves on. And they start hitting the pads or hitting the bag, it blows me away every single time I see it. But to your point, these persons have Parkinson's. Again, this one lady is 88, and she staved off the worst of it because she's in that boxing gym all the time, huh?
Well, first of all, you need to connect me with Terry.
I will do that.
we definitely do funding.
Yeah.
We fund some of these classes for people that can't afford them. Mm-hmm. And I love that because that's what Matt does. My brother does. Yeah. He goes to the gym. When I watch him box, and then one day, Sugar Ray Leonard, who's been an amazing supporter of ours. We've had our event at his house several times. Just a great guy. He goes and boxes with Matt sometimes, and that's so much fun to see the two of them go at it. But yeah, this is something that we didn't know about when my dad was dealing with his Parkinson's in the 80s. And the irony that Muhammad Ali would be the one
absolutely
sort of, put a face on this, and and all of that is just a full circle moment. And by the way, speaking of Muhammad Ali, just have to give his legacy and his energy a shout out because when in 2002, when we thought the HollyRod Foundation was going to go under because we couldn't fundraise, it was really tough. He showed up at our event and really put us on the map firmly I'll never forget that, like it happened yesterday. We handed him this watch, and you know the champ.
Yep.
He got on the mic. He goes, "This is all I get? That's all you got?" And we laughed. I mean, he just was so amazing. But he put us on the map. And so to see my brother, you know, who does this boxing and hiking and all of that, because he understands we now have the information that we didn't have back then, that you got to move, you got to keep it moving. But I love that, and so I would love to support and meet Harry.
I'll definitely connect you. But I'm with you. I think about it all the time. The irony that Ali had Parkinson's, he's the one that put it out there, and he was a boxer, the greatest, of course, of all time. But it is interesting irony. Let me ask you, you're watching my clock, you've got 5 minutes left here. Let me ask you what you've learned over the years. And again, you and Rodney, as compared to many African Americans, are persons of means, and that's a beautiful thing. I say all the time, I've been rich and I've been poor in my life. Trust me, rich is better. So you all are a family of some means as compared to many other African Americans. But I'm raising it because I'm curious of what you've seen over the years about what autism does to black families in particular, and the journey that they have to walk, oftentimes with meager resources, trying to navigate this autism space. Talk to me about that, Holly.
Oh, my goodness. The financial struggle that everyone goes through, even if you have means. And that's what really made us start talking about it, because I told Rodney, you know, we need to talk about this because we have the means to be able to take care of our dad and our son. But with autism, when you get a diagnosis late, you miss the opportunity in this window to get in the intervention that is needed. And the earlier you intervene, the better. So the earlier you get your child into these interventions, the better they are to be able to navigate this world. And I always say, you know, I wouldn't change RJ for the world, but I would definitely try to change the world for RJ. This world is cold-blooded when it comes to people who are neurodiverse, who don't think the way other people do. Nobody's patient with them. And so for families, especially black families, we try to really shed the light and pull.
Yeah, I think we let me see if we can get this fixed right quick here. We lost our signal just for a second here. I only have 2 minutes left anyway between now and news and traffic and sports. I want to make sure I get Holly's last couple points though. We'll try to get her back on the line here just a second here. I can tell you this, though, while we're getting her on back on the line for these last couple minutes. The event is called DesignCare Gala. As I said earlier, it's their 25th anniversary. They've honored so many people over the years. I've been to these things a number of times. When Eddie Murphy was honored, you heard her mention a moment ago, Muhammad Ali was honored one year. This year, they're honoring Naomi Campbell, Nicole Parker, and her husband, Boris Kodjoe. So they've been very fortunate to have a lot of people come through and allow themselves to be at the epicenter of the fundraising that DesignCare Gala has done. I've got Holly back now. Holly, I got about 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes left. You were just saying finally about getting started early.
Yeah. So the earlier that we intervene, the better. The sooner we get out of denial. And by the way, I'm not standing. Our family, Rodney Peete, was in denial.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with black dads, it's not all of them, but sometimes with the black dads, they really struggle to understand what autism is. But the sooner you get on board and the sooner we intervene, the better outcome for our kids. And then once you get that diagnosis, then you have to move on towards treatment. And that is very difficult. And that's part of the reason why we raise funds for families for them to help get access and resources to help intervene with their children with with autism.
Yeah. So in the 90 seconds I have left, I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you brag about this year's 25th anniversary DesignCare Gala. Take it away, Holly Robinson Peete.
Woo! Okay, so this is what we got going on this year, Tavis. HollyRod is like my fifth child, so I mean, I stress out hard over this. But Naomi Campbell is being honored, and she has been a global icon. Obviously, we all know she is in philanthropy. But we're giving her a very special award this year, the inaugural Jacqueline Avon Award. And as many of us know, Jacqueline Avon, Clarence Avon's wife, who was gunned down at her home, and she was the ultimate philanthropist and the ultimate epitome of grace and philanthropy and the arts. And so we're starting an award in her honor, and that Naomi is going to be the first recipient of that. Boris Kodjoe and his wife, great philanthropists as well, are going to be getting the Muhammad Ali HollyRod Humanitarian Award. And then we're honoring several other people. Please check it out on the website, hollyrod.org. Robin Thicke is going to perform. He's performed before. His late father was such a supporter of HollyRod. And so this is his second time back to DesignCare. And DJ D Nice is going to be spinning some records for us. That's always a party.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're having a fantastic fashion show with an amazing, iconic black designer, Sergio Hudson. And we have some food. We got some delicious food from Doolin's. If y'all know Doolin's, it's going to be grub time.
It's going to be a party, and I'm just thrilled that it's been 25 years and you all are still going strong. I am out of time. Let me ask you right quick, and I'm telling on myself here now, you doing any Hallmark movies for Christmas this year?
You know what? I don't have a Hallmark Christmas movie this year because of the writer's strike.
Right.
But you know they rerun them all the time, so I'll definitely be on there.
Yeah, I'm telling on myself. I'm not sure a black male is supposed to be watching the Hallmark Channel, but
yes, you are.
But
yes, you are. You are that demo.
but they're so positive. They're so positive. What can I tell you? It's great holiday fare. Anyway, it's the 25th anniversary of DesignCare Gala. HollyRod Foundation has been doing great work for a quarter century now, believe it or not, and I am celebrating the event this year. Holly Robinson Peete, I love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Thanks for your time.
Love you too, Tavis. Talk to you soon.
More of Tavis Smiley after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
It's a Monday, July 10th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. FBI Director Christopher Wray will testify before Congress tomorrow. Wray will appear before the House Judiciary Committee, where he'll face a number of Republicans who have been increasingly critical of the Justice Department following the recent indictment of former President Trump. The University of North Carolina will offer free tuition to some students after the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action on Friday. UNC at Chapel Hill announced in-state students whose families make less than $80,000 a year will receive free tuition beginning in 2024. A statement from the school says, "We want to make sure students know financial constraints should not stand in the way of their dreams." And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
A brush fire reported in the Griffith Park area, 134 West at Riverside Drive, Victory. The right lane is blocked there. Traffic very heavy coming away from San Fernando Road in Glendale. In downtown LA, a stalled vehicle on the 10 West at Alameda Street. Have a wreck in West Covina, 10 westbound at Vincent. That has taken out your left lane. In Rosemead, a work zone on the 60 eastbound of Rosemead Boulevard with a right lane closure.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? The accident guys can come to you almost anywhere, so you don't have to come to us. Se habla español.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers take a 4-game winning streak into the All-Star break. They're back in first place in the NL West for the first time since June 5th. They lead Arizona by a half game. Major League Baseball's All-Star game is Tuesday night in Seattle. Dodgers right fielder Mookie Betts is competing in today's home run derby. The competition begins at 5 p.m. The All-Star weekend actually kicked off on Friday in Seattle with the new Swingman Classic, an All-Star game for HBCU players. The Swingman Classic was created by Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. 50 players from 28 HBCUs played in the Classic, which is designed to give more exposure for black college players who want to play in the major leagues. Griffey plans to make the Swingman Classic an annual event during All-Star Weekend. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Need a fresh start?
LADWP income-qualified customers can get up to $15,000 tax-free to pay overdue water utility bills with the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. Benefit amounts may vary and will not impact other benefits. Visit ladwp.com/cares and apply today. That's ladwp.com/cares.
Moments like seeing my son's team cheer him on mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
We are indeed. A conversation now with Dr. Greg Hammer about this. Have you ever stopped to ponder how the practice of gratitude can rewire your brain, leading to a profound transformation in your life? Dr. Greg Hammer, professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, physician, best-selling author, and mindfulness expert, joins us right now for a conversation about the power of gratitude and its potential to reshape our neural pathways. His very popular book is entitled Gain Without Pain, The Happiness Handbook for Healthcare Professionals, and I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Greg Hammer to this program. Dr. Hammer, how are you today, sir?
I'm very well. Great to be with you.
It's great to have you on. Thank you for the time. Let me just make the most of the time that we do have and jump right in. Talk to me about the relationship between gratitude and our brains, gratitude and our neural pathways.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say that the elements of gain, which you mentioned, are the title of my book. My first book is Gain Without Pain. GAIN is in capital letters and is an acronym for what I think are really the four pillars of happiness, and they're very closely interrelated. So they include gratitude, acceptance, intention, and non-judgment. So if we have time, we can dive a little bit further into those other elements as well. But gratitude, I think, is well known in many religious and spiritual, philosophical traditions to be intrinsically associated with happiness. For example, we've all known people who perhaps didn't have a lot of money but were happy, or were even physically challenged and happy, but it's impossible even to imagine somebody who's ungrateful and happy. So I think that sort of is a good thought experiment that indicates the essential nature of gratitude and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, our brains have become wired over tens of thousands of years of evolution to have characteristics that seem to interfere with our ability to be happy, and they include, one, we all have a negativity bias. We tend to focus on the negative and relegate the positive to the back burner, and we're also very distracted with the past and present, and happiness is really we're distracted by the past and future. Happiness is in the present. So going to gratitude actually brings us to the present moment miraculously, in addition to those other gain components.
Yeah. I don't want to lose sight of this. Let me just do it right now. Let's break down those four parts of gain that you referenced a moment ago, starting with the gratitude. Take it away.
Sure. So, the gain practice is really just a 3-minute meditation that we do in the morning. We get up, we open the blinds, we do our morning hygiene, we find a comfortable place to sit. We spend 15 or 20 seconds focusing on our breath, breathing deeply into our belly, something when we're anxious we often don't do all day, or maybe even go days without taking a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then we begin to focus on that for which we're grateful. And we all have much for which to be grateful. So, again, we often get out of bed in the morning and we're focused on something negative. My back is a little bit stiff. We don't really pay homage to the fact that the rest of our body is working beautifully, which is a miracle when you think about the complexity of the human body. So what we need to do is begin to rewire the brain, and we do that one thought at a time. Our brains have this magical quality called neuroplasticity. So we may find ourselves being ungrateful, but when we practice this GAIN method on a regular basis, a little light bulb goes off when we're being ungrateful and reminds us somewhat humorously that, gee, we're falling into our old habits. So let's just turn the tide and focus on gratitude again. So we spend 40 or 45 seconds just reviewing that for which we're grateful, friends, family, beautiful day, this day. I mean, being alive this day beats the alternative.
Yes.
And then we transition to acceptance, because pain is inevitably part of life, just as joy is. And if we resist that which is uncomfortable for us all the time, then it increases our suffering. There's a formula in the book: suffering equals pain times resistance. And acceptance is the opposite of resistance. So if we fully accept, then even though the pain is still there, and we all have good examples of this, our suffering is diminished. So we spend, again, 40 or 45 seconds just imagining this uncomfortable or painful experience, bring it closer. Imagine opening our chest, opening our heart, bringing the experience and the feeling into our heart and really nurturing it, sitting with it. And we find that it's not as bad as we thought once we really begin to accept this. And then the I in GAIN is intention. And again, we are wired to overthink the past and future, and we need to have a plan, a regular practice to really appreciate the present moment, the only moment we ever truly experience. So we might spend 15 seconds just sitting with our physical sensations, the pressure of the chair against our body, the slightly sweet smell of the air we're breathing, something we hear in the background with our eyes closed, maybe a plane going by. And we train ourselves to really be able to focus on the present moment and also to be a little bit more positive. And finally, the N is for non-judgment, and this is so important because we're always judging everything in our environment, and most harshly ourselves. And with our negativity bias, we tend to be very hard on others and hard on ourselves especially. So one little exercise is to imagine one of these beautiful NASA images of the Earth apparently suspended in space. And during our GAIN meditation, we spend 30 seconds just contemplating that the Earth is a beautiful planet, but it really is just a planet. It's neither good nor bad. And then we find it only logical to consider ourselves the same way. We're just a human being. We're just the person that we are. We're neither good nor bad. And we sort of sit with this, go back to focusing on the breath, open our eyes slowly, and we're ready to go out in the world. So I think this is an easy practice. It takes as little as 3 minutes and really helps start to rewire our brains for the more positive.
In case you just tuned in, we're talking to Dr. Greg Hammer about gratitude and how it can help us rewire our brains, how gratitude can reshape our neural pathways, and there's science to prove it. Let me ask you right quick a few things I want to unpack, give you a chance to unpack, given what you said a moment ago. Number one, and I've had to work at this myself, and I'm still working at it, quite frankly. I had to still myself literally just last week in a particular moment that I found myself not imbibing in the way that I wanted to. Why is it so difficult for us, speaking of gratitude, to be present in the moment? Why is it so difficult for us? We will think about the past, we think about what's coming up next, but even in the moments that bring us joy, oftentimes, or can bring us joy, oftentimes we're not fully present. What is that about us that allows us not to be present fully in the moment?
That's a great question. You're right. When we are present, we're happy. So we can picture walking through a forest, appreciating the soft pine needle floor of the forest on the soles of our feet, smelling the sweet smell of the air, looking up at the canopy above, seeing the sunlight filtering down through the leaves 100 feet above. And when we're in that moment, we're happy. We're not worried about what happened yesterday, something we did or didn't do, some stupid comment we made that we're ashamed of, or the future. We're not worried about the list of things we have to do when we get home. So why can't we do that more frequently? I think the reason, and this is just my own hypothesis, is that our brains have been wired to be very obsessed with the past and future over tens of thousands of years of evolution. So we're not going to change this overnight. We're going to do so just with baby steps, righting the ship, moving in the right direction. And, it may be that at one point, maybe 50 or 60,000 years ago, really dwelling excessively on the future and being negative and catastrophizing, imagining the worst thing that could happen, that may have been adaptive for early Homo sapiens sitting in their cave, keeping the fire going, and worried that there might be a saber-toothed tiger lurking right outside the mouth of the cave. And maybe that individual that was very preoccupied with the future, and rather negatively so at that, survived longer than others, and therefore those genes that code for these neural pathways, these properties, were propagated more widely in the population. And fast forward 50,000 years, here we are today. And fortunately, most of us aren't living in that threatening an environment, and yet we still are obsessed with what might happen. We catastrophize. We generate a lot of fear and anxiety, and we have a hard time being present.
I appreciate that response. Again, it's something I'm working on even still, just trying to, in moments of splendor and joy, to just be still and be present in that moment and just take it in. When we come forward, I guess, in this hour, Dr. Greg Hammer, I want to ask a few other things, including, given what he said a moment ago, why we are so hard on ourselves. I am my own worst critic. I acknowledge that. But why are we so hard on ourselves? I want to ask him what, if anything, can be done about the negative bias that so many of us have. A great deal more to talk about when we come forward in a moment with our guest, Dr. Greg Hammer, on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward. Black Lives Matters turns 10, and KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to be the exclusive media partner of the People's Justice Festival. This Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park. Come join us as we celebrate the life-saving and history-making work of Black Lives Matter to help bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. There will be live music performances, a children's village, giveaways, vendors, a healing justice space, Skillshare, and amazing speakers, including Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West, live on stage at 4:30 p.m. For more information, go to blmgrassroots.org. That's www.blmgrassroots.org. Dominique DePrima and Tavis Smiley will be main stage hosts throughout the day, and the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation will be out in full force. So, join us this Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I done plant my seeds down, rooted. Brown skin popping, I'm rooted. You pull the hood out me, I'm rooted. Rooted, nappy head, rooted.
The Supreme Court rules against affirmative action. I'm Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. The Supreme Court rules against affirmative action in the higher education admission process. Affirmative action in higher education began in the late 1960s and aimed to increase the number of Black students and students of color at colleges and universities. It has assisted in leveling the playing field for many years. Due to racism and the complicated relationship between students of color and the world of higher education, affirmative action was set in place. The recent decision comes as a shock to many, but not to everyone. In fact, in April of 2022, Pew Research Center reported that nearly 3 in 4 people in the U.S. said that race or ethnicity should not be considered in college admissions. I'm Maisha Cairo. That's your K-Black Minute News.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's continue talking about gratitude with Dr. Greg Hammer and how that gratitude can rewire our brains, lead to profound transformations in our lives as we reshape our neural pathways. Dr. Hammer, you mentioned this earlier. I want to get you to unpack this for me. Why is it that we are so hard on ourselves, sir?
Well, Tavis, I'm not sure I can give you the why per se, but I will say a couple of things I think are important. First of all, you indicated that it's a journey for you, that you're not there in any sense of the word.
Yeah.
And that is the way it is for all of us. Life is a journey. There's really no destination. And even the gain process, it's a process. So it's a 3 to 5 minute morning meditation. It gets us on the right track. But we learn and rewire our brains in baby steps. And so, you know, we've been hardwired to think the way we do and experience the way we do over tens of thousands of years. We're not going to do a 180 overnight. So no expectations, baby steps. And I want to say also, Tavis, that we're all in this together. We all have this negativity bias. We're all obsessed with the past and future and have a hard time being present. And we're all very hard on ourselves. We're all very judgmental. And I think there's an important difference between discerning and judging, and we can get to self-judgment. It's important to discern. If I have an hour to spend with a friend and I have a choice between spending it with Tom, who's an optimist, pragmatist, forward-looking, a lot like me, or Ken, who's kind of a bummer, he complains a lot, he's judging, I would discern that I'd rather spend the time with my optimistic, pragmatic friend. And so that's not judging. It doesn't mean that either person is good or bad. And so that sort of gets us to the way we look at ourselves. And you're right. You are not the only one who's very hard on yourself. And I would say that there's a show on NPR I love called Hidden Brain, and I was listening to it a couple of weeks ago, and they had a guy on who's an expert in the imposter syndrome. And this is even the most accomplished people believe that they have dirty little secrets about themselves, and if everyone else knew these secrets, that they wouldn't respect them, and their whole career would come tumbling down. So we all feel this way, even the most accomplished, the highest paid movie star, the most successful academic, the best clinical doctor, the best radio show host who's got the biggest audience. We all feel like we're imposters. We all have this negativity bias we apply toward self-judgment. So the key, I think, Tavis, is really to learn how to drop the judgments. Because when we judge the world and ourselves, we're not seeing things clearly. We're seeing them through a veil that's sort of colored by our own biases and preconceptions. So the key is, and I can't tell you why we're like this, but I can give you some little tips in terms of how to transcend this sort of constant judging.
Yeah, I was about to ask that, so take it away, because we live in a culture where now more than ever, that's all we do. We judge people all day long. So I'm not
right.
I'm not so much concerned about the why. So if consider yourself lucky, I ain't going to ask you the why question. What I am going to ask you is how we address that, sir.
Well, I'll give you a couple of tidbits. One is, I think, a wonderful cognitive behavioral approach to harsh self-judgment. So the next time you're being very hard on yourself, Tavis, first I would recognize that we all do this. There's nothing unique about it. It's not your dirty little secret. We are all negative. We're all very judgmental, especially of ourselves. We're all imperfect. We need to remember, first of all, that image, for example, of the Earth apparently suspended in space. It's beautiful, but it is just a planet. It's neither good nor bad. And it's only logical for us to consider ourselves the same way. So we really need to start practicing, and I think the gain meditation in the morning is an excellent tool, but there are others, of dropping the judgment, in particular of ourselves. So when we find ourselves judging ourselves harshly, one thing we can do is we can go back to the gain practice and consider the earth or just the ground we're standing on is clearly neither good nor bad, and so neither are we.
Yeah.
And the other thing is there's a great cognitive behavioral exercise. So the next time you're really hard on yourself and you're ruining something you said the other day that you didn't mean to say or came off wrong, or you did or didn't do something that you're ashamed of, imagine that you're talking to your best friend or somebody, your brother, sister, somebody that you care about, and they're describing exactly the same thoughts that you're having about your own behavior or experience. You're talking to your best friend, and they're telling you, "Oh, Tavis, I'm so embarrassed about this thing I said or did or didn't do. I just feel awful." Would you judge them, or would you reassure them and say, "You know what? You're just a human being, just like me. We're all flawed. There's nothing wrong with what you did. It's just part of life. This is the way we are.
Yeah.
We're all mortal. We're all fallible, and we all need to embrace each other, recognize that we're all made of the same stuff, whether you call it God or consciousness or love.
Yeah.
We're all the same. None of us are worse or better than the others.
I receive it. I accept it. It's a great response, and I'll try to try to enact it the next time I find myself being a little too hard on myself. Likely later today. Our remaining moments, Dr. Greg Hammer, when we come forward talking about gratitude on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Where are we on the lineup?
It's official. Avery is producing Main Street Music Days.
We need to be ready. We're going to have lots of people. What's the status on the new sound engineer?
They need an audio technician to keep things level from sound checks to encores.
Make sure audio from one stage does not compete with another.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
All right, Dr. Hammer, I got about 4 minutes left, and I want to do a quick round-robin round of just being a skeptic about gratitude and have you give me quick responses to these 4 things. In no particular order, number 1, speaking of skepticism of the efficacy of gratitude, some critics argue that gratitude practices are merely superficial expressions of positivity and may question the long-term impact of well-being. Your response?
My response is that, yes, gratitude in isolation can appear to be a Band-Aid or a superficial way of dealing with the world. That's why the other 3 aspects of the gain practice are so important. The next one is acceptance. And so, again, we have to acknowledge the pain in life as well. Just being grateful is not going to eliminate pain from our lives. So we need to focus on that and embrace the pain and also have a plan, be purposeful and intentional, and learn to be more non-judgmental. And so it's not just gratitude. It has to be really practiced in concert with a broader strategy.
Pushback number 2 regards an overemphasis on positivity. Some skeptics argue that an excessive focus on gratitude and positive thinking overlooks the importance of acknowledging and addressing real negative emotions or difficult life situations.
Well, exactly the same answer, Tavis. I would go to the next part of the acronym GAIN and focus on acceptance. We do have to acknowledge that which is painful or uncomfortable for us in life, and we have to learn to bring it in closer and accept it, just as a serenity prayer would have it. We have to discern between what we can change and what we can't change, and for the latter, we need to practice acceptance. So, yes, I agree. Just trying to be rosy and, life is a bowl of cherries, that's not really going to get us very far. Gratitude is a component of an overall plan, but not the only component.
This is a cousin of the argument I just made a moment ago. I want to get your take on this. People who use gratitude as a coping mechanism that is, rather than real problem solving.
Well, I think there's a balance in there. Again, we have to not just push away that which is painful or uncomfortable, but coping has a little bit of a negative overtone, but I would say that coping is also part of what is resilience. And, I'm a strong advocate for personal resilience. I think that's what the GAIN program is all about. So coping is not necessarily a bad thing. That just sort of brings us to the center, and it's part of an overall strategy of gaining greater happiness in life.
And finally, a term I discovered in my research for this conversation that I didn't even know existed, toxic positivity. If you can believe it, there is something known as toxic positivity, where people feel pressured to constantly express gratitude, even in the face of genuine challenges or distress. Dr. Hammer?
Yes, I think, going back to that same principle, we you may know somebody who just seems to be happy all the time, but they're really not. We don't want to deny that which is uncomfortable and painful to us. And so if I have a good friend that I've discerned, somebody I want to spend more time with, that person has to really give me the whole gamut of what's on their mind and what their experience is. And that includes not just happiness and all is well, but also I want to know about what's causing them pain and suffering.
Dr. Greg Hammer, professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, physician, best-selling author, mindfulness expert. His very popular text is called Gain Without Pain. The gain is all caps, Gain Without Pain. Dr. Hammer, appreciate the download today. Good to have you on. We'll do it again somewhere down the road, but I am grateful for your appearance on this program today.
Likewise, Tavis. I appreciate it, and I hope to connect with you soon.
We'll do it again. All the best to you. There's our program, 3 hours gone, just like that. Back here tomorrow morning, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep the faith.